everybody, and I'll call the meeting to order. Any disclosure, any pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Nobody's raising their hands, so we're good. Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton and second by Councillor Anderson that the minutes of the Town of Minto, December 21st, 2021 regular council meeting be approved. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Additional items as another business. Has anybody got additional items? Seeing anything right at the moment, and okay, if you do, we'll bring that up again at the end. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor McKenzie, the Town of Minto Council convenes in the committee of the whole. Anybody opposed? Carried. Good. We have no delegations at this meeting. I should say welcome everybody. This is the first meeting in the new year, isn't it? I'm sorry, I forgot that. So hope everybody had a good holiday, and looking forward to this year. It's going to be a very challenging and exciting year, I think, from what we've got on the plate for development and whatnot. And we're still dealing with COVID, so we've still got lots of work to do, but really looking forward to this year. So we have some correspondence. Does anybody want to pull anything from the correspondence? Okay, moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Gunson. The council receives the correspondence as information. Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay. Now I'll turn it over to, I've been working so hard, I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Elliott to take the next one on.
Thanks, Mayor Britt. And I'm looking for, is it Matt? Matt, there he is. You always bury yourself in the council. You never know where you are. So yes, I'll turn this over to Matt Newbers.
Right on. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Elliott. So the report before you today is about cloud-based facility booking and program registration solutions. So we currently use features included with our accounting software, Keystone, but they aren't meeting our needs or the needs of our residents and program participants. Most specifically on the programming side, we run quite a few programs and now provide year-round childcare services, whether it's at our day camps or our after-school programs, and a better solution is needed. So over a 6-week period in November, December, 5 different online solutions were reviewed, and the one that stood out from the rest was the Active Network platform, and specifically their Flex Reg module. So it will provide flexibility for our participants and reduce the double entering of data moving forward. And on the other side of things, for facility bookings, that module looks good and should better suit our needs. Active Network is a popular option in the industry and is currently used by the Town of Hanover and the Township of Center Wellington. The price includes a one-time fee and an annual subscription fee that fall within our budget for this project. This project was certainly needed, and it was definitely nice to utilize the Municipal Modernization Fund from the province to fund it for us. That's what I've got.
Thanks, Matt. I'll read the motion and then we'll ask questions or comments after that. Moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report CS 2022-001 regarding facility booking and program registration solutions, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto approves the purchase of the Active Network platform for the total price of $21,635 plus HST. Okay, questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious about if I'm an old lady, oh wait, I am, and I want to book something and I don't have the foggiest notion how to use that system. Like, does a phone still work?
Yeah, through Councillor Elliott, a phone will still work. What would happen is we would just take the information from the resident over the phone, and we would enter it and create their account on their behalf.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so would they still get the same warnings, or not warnings, reminders by email and so on and so forth as somebody else who did the whole shot themselves?
Yeah, as long as we type their email in correctly. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Okay, super. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, those not in favor of this motion? That's carried. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to Mayor Bridge.
Thanks, Ron. And now we're getting into some of our planning applications. So I have a application and Ashley's going to go through it, and then we'll do the motion. Go ahead, Ashley.
Good afternoon, Mayor Bridge and members of council. So this hold removal is for 423 James Street, now within the urban boundary of Palmerston. You may recall the owner previously had a consent come forward to subdivide the property into 2 equal sized lots, roughly 0.64 of an acre each. So to remove this hold, council must pass a bylaw to do so once satisfied that the proposed lots, building locations are satisfactory, that municipal services are available, which there are, and that the lot has frontage on an open street, which it now does. There is also site-specific zoning requiring the typical 19.7 foot front yard setback, but does note a maximum of 39.36 feet. That being said, you may recall that the farm behind it has been brought in with OPA 117 as future development. So the thought behind keeping the hold on the back part of the parcel is that should that farm ever be developed, it wouldn't restrict the development potential from the back part of that parcel to create another residential lot potentially. So town staff are in support of removing this hold in the front portion of the property, and the hold will remain on the back part. This is clearing one condition of the severance application, and the other conditions will still apply. And we are recommending that council receives this report for information and considers passing a bylaw in open session to remove the hold.
Thank you, Ashley. Any questions for Ashley? Okay. Pretty well housekeeping thing. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Gudson, second by Deputy Mayor Turton. The Council of Town of Minto receives the report PLN 2022-01 regarding the zoning bylaw amendment to lift the hold H designation from lands legally described as parts lots 78 and 79 Mary Caswell survey with the municipal address of 423 Jane Street in the town of Minto for information and considering passing a bylaw in open session. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Good. Next up is the Palmerston Industrial Park hold removal. Go ahead, Ashley.
So this hold removal is for the east side of the Palmerston Industrial Park, which was previously placed on the entirety of the industrial park and removed from the west side in 2004. The east side has seen the removal of holds for individual properties with each site plan brought before council. However, due to the rapid pace of development, we're recommending removing the hold for the remainder of the east side to make the process more efficient. Essentially, we'd be removing the hold once and council would still see the site plan agreement come for each property. The town staff are in support of removing the hold on the property, and we are recommending that council receives this report for information and considers passing a bylaw in open session.
Thanks, Ashley. Any questions? Kind of housekeeping thing. Seeing none, I have a recommendation moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Elliott. The Council of Town of Minto receives the report PLN 2022-0002 regarding a zoning bylaw amendment to lift the holding H designation from lands in the Palmerston Industrial Park, more fully described by bylaw number 2022-04. For the information and considers passing the bylaw in open session. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Good. Okay, Ashley, go ahead. You got another one?
Yes, so this one kind of relates to the last one. So this is a site plan control agreement. It's for 340 Minto Road in the industrial park on the east side, and it's owned by McClellan Industries, who sells vitamin and mineral premixes for farmers. The business is initially set to employ 3 people, and the building will be approximately 7,500 square feet. The site plan shows a location of hedges along the front of the property, sugar maples along the interior property lines, paved parking areas, loading spaces, man door and garage door locations, snow storage, fire routes, grading and drainage, all of that fun stuff. So Triton town staff and county staff are recommending the approval of this site plan agreement, and council considers passing a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign this SPA.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. Any questions? Okay, well, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Turton.
Well, thank you, Mayor Bridge. Ashley, any idea on when they're going to get going? If we can approve them, like it looks very nice from above, from the site plan.
They were ready to go yesterday. So as soon as possible. I believe they have their materials and everything all lined up already, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Mayor Turton. That's good news. Okay, so the resolution is moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Gutson. The Council of Town of Minto receives report PLN 2022-03 and approves the site plan prepared by GM Blue Plan Engineering, last revised and dated December 16th, 2021, as recommended by the Town of Minto staff and the Town of Minto engineer. And further, that the owner executes with the Town of Minto a site plan agreement requiring the completion of all works required in the agreement within 1 year from the date of the occupancy of the building, with the exception of the asphalt works to be completed within 2 years of the date of the date town paves Minto Road in front of the subject property. And further, the council considers passing a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign site plan agreement. Anybody opposed? That is carried. Thank you. That's great to see that going, and another successful business coming into town. Okay, next up, I have the appointment bylaws update. Not much here, but Annalene, just going ahead with that. Or... Oh no, Quinn's got it. Sorry, Quinn's got it. Sorry, Quinn. Go ahead, Quinn.
Sure. So through you, Mayor Bridge, as you said, there's not really much to this report. We passed the appointment bylaw first meeting of every year, and this year there are no changes to report. Everyone has decided to remain on the committees that they're on. So I don't really have much more. I can answer any questions, but it's pretty routine at this point.
Open up for questions. Okay, seeing none, I have a recommendation moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Anderson. The Council of Town of Minto receives the report CL 2022-01 regarding the updating and appointment of bylaw and consider a bylaw in regular session. Anybody opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor Turton to assume the chair for the finance.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bridge. So we've got 3 items on the agenda today. The first one being 2022 to 2024 remuneration. So I'll ask Gord to our Treasurer Duff to go ahead and let's talk about this.
All right. Thank you, Chair Turton. So this is something that Clerk McRobb and CEO Thompson and I have been working on for a few months. Basically, it's good to have a look at council remuneration at least once per term. And of course, I want to emphasize that this is for the next term of council. So it's not for any existing councillors. It's to come into effect after the next election. So the report kind of outlines and refreshes where we are right now. We have a certain base pay and we have per diems for council meetings such as this. And then we also have other remuneration for attending other meetings and out of town things too. So we've also done a bit of a survey, both with the Wellington County municipalities and a bit for other comparable rural and small urban municipalities, just to get an idea where we're at. And I know all we hear on the news is the labor shortage. Well, counselors it's a job too, and we're trying to make it as attractive as possible and make it more likely that people who are maybe employed or self-employed or retired or whatever can put in for the next election, and we get, high quality candidates as we wish. So on the middle of page 2, we have a brief outline of what the other municipalities in our county use as a basis for. So we're not too far off. There's a bit of the range. Mapleton at the lowest and Center Wellington at the highest in general for most things too. So what we're proposing is wrapping the base rate and the basic per diems into one. So roughly going from, say for a counselor, from about 12,400 plus per diems, which is worked out in effect around 17 or 18,000 on average, to a 19,200. So there's a modest increase too. The other highlights are adding a couple of benefits to the council, which they've never had before. So one thing is a health benefit. This is kind of a flexible, it's a modest coverage, but it's called a health care spending account, where the counselors would get a set amount, say a couple of $1,000s per year, and it would be used for whatever their particular expenses are. And it would still be through Manulife, and Manulife provides coverage for the rest of the staff. And the estimated cost of that is about $16,000 per year. And then, as you know, full-time employees are enrolled in the Ontario Municipal Employee Retirement System, or OMERS for short, which is a well-diversified public sector pension plan. And we would open this enrollment to counselors. Now, again, it is based on earnings, but also the time in the plan. So it would provide another modest pension benefit. And of course, the longer you're able to stay on council, the more attractive the benefit would be. So we've incorporated this in our future plans. And again, it would come into effect after the next election. And it's one way that we think it makes the councilor's job, which I know can be pretty thankless at times, but a little more attractive, at least, and from a monetary point of view, for sure. So certainly we'll take any questions, or if there's comments from CAO. Yeah.
Yes, CAO Thompson, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Turn. I just wanted to reiterate one of the things that Treasurer Duff indicated in that when staff were looking at this particular issue, Council, you will recall when we were doing the procedural bylaw, we've now made changes so that you can attend meetings virtually, right? The purpose of those types of changes is to make it more inclusive for people in the community to join. The same thing is true around what we're proposing for benefits and the benefit plan and the OMERS plan, in that we believe that we should make it inclusive for all folks, regardless of their social economic status, to be able to run for council if they want to. So again, continuing the line that Treasurer Duff had indicated, that we want to be able to offer the opportunity of as many people as possible to be able to run for council. So Treasurer Duff did a good job of explaining the details, but I just want to add that nuance to why we presented both those two options for you. And again, to reiterate, this is for the next term of council. This is not for yourselves. So thank you, Chair Turn.
No, thank you. So the recommendation moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor McKenzie, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the report FIN 2022-001 regarding council remuneration 2022-2024. So we'll, it's a very good report. We'll open this up for questioning. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. One question I have, if OMERS, is it possible that a new councillor or the new councillors coming in, if they decided they didn't want to get involved in OMERS, can opt out? They
No.
would have to.
not under this plan. It's kind of all of council is in or all is out. So
what my question is how's the OMERS work? It would be a percentage of money that that the council would have to put in.
That's right.
The town would put in.
Yeah, exactly. It's currently that percentage is 9%, and it ties into the annual CPP maximum earnings tied into that. So basically, the councillor would put in 9%, and the town would put in 9% going forward.
So it's the same with the health benefit. You couldn't opt out of that, even though, see, I have all that benefit program, and a lot of people that are working would have their own benefit program. And I believe my company that I deal with is exactly the same company with the health that you deal with. So, what value would that be to be somebody like myself?
Go ahead.
CAO Thompson, do you want to go ahead, please, on this?
Yeah, so thank you, Chair Turton. So typically, if people have the same benefit provider, you would all have limits on the amount of deductible for your benefits. You could use this as a top up to that benefit.
Okay.
The way that it was explained to us in the information we got when we prepared the report was this would be like a shopping list of things you could choose. So for instance, if orthotics was something that wasn't covered under your current plan, you could cover it from this plan. Or for instance, if your eyeglass amount was only $200 a year for one pair of eyeglasses, you could supplement it through this plan for another pair of eyeglasses. So it's a pick and choose kind of scenario.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense to me. Thanks.
Okay.
Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Chair Turton. I had the same question as Councillor Elliott, but so that one got answered. But I also note that, and now I can't remember what the dates were, but the dates are incorrect on here for the 2022 to 24 term. As far as I know, we're still sticking with 4-year terms,
Right.
and I think we're not making the decision tonight, anyways, or this afternoon. But when we do, we probably want to correct that and make that 20. I don't know whether we say 22 to 26 or whether we say 23 to 26, but anyways, it's 4 years. So we probably want to correct that. The other thing is, I guess, you know, I've always said that the reason I like per diems, and I don't like per diems enough to vote against this, but the reason I like per diems, and I think it's something that we need to at least put out there, is it's the people who, the councillors who are available and are able to go to the meetings get paid to go to the meetings. Whereas if, you know, so this basically means that somebody could come onto council and not be available for half the committee meetings that they're supposed to be at, and yet still collect their full amount. And it doesn't mean they're not doing something else at other times and so on. I realize that, but I guess that's, to me, that's the consideration that we have to think about. You know, someone goes to 3 conferences, for instance, and somebody else goes to none and they get the same. So anyways, and we don't know until we know who's going to be on the next term and so on, how that will all flesh out. But I just think it's a consideration that we need to think about.
Thank you, Councillor Dirksen. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Chair Turton. Through you. Gord, is there a tax implication here for receiving it in a lump sum versus getting it monthly? Wouldn't there be more tax taken off? You may be put into another bracket?
Yeah, whether it's monthly or annual, in the end, it won't make any difference. But if it's a taxable benefit, yes, it would be added to your T4 at the end, but the total tax implication doesn't really depend on monthly or annual. Also, your 9% contribution to OMERS is a tax deduction. And again, for people without pensions, again, down the road when you do collect, it does qualify for that pension amount tax deduction too. So yeah, that's the thing. It's a challenge for all of us to come up with a solution because everyone is a little different, both demographically and of course your personal financial situation. But it's trying to make it as attractive to all as we can.
And my other question then, Gord, would be, there's an age thing here with the pension contribution with OMERS.
Yes, it's only to 65 right now. So that is a factor too. Basically, whatever the OMERS rules are for staff, like going forward, that would apply to the counselors as well too.
So it's a benefit if you're under 65, and if you're over, you don't.
Yeah, and I know the workings of OMERS. It's definitely the more time, the better.
Yeah. Thanks, Gord.
Councillor Anderson.
I'm just a little confused there by the statement about getting one lump sum. That's referring to which? Because the payments are coming out monthly, right? It's intended to be a salary. It's not a one lump sum at the end of the year.
Yeah, they're like premiums, and they would be a deduction off your pay.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we're referring to the pay as a lump sum.
No.
CAO Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Turton. Through you to Councillor Anderson. Councillor Anderson, this would be like a bi-weekly pay,
Yeah.
as you would get normally, where your deductions would be taken off bi-weekly. There is no lump sum.
Right, okay. I was just confused by that comment about a lump sum and the tax implications. Sorry,
Councillor, I would say this though, if you are over the age of 65 and you're not collecting the pension benefit, you're also not getting the pension benefit taken off. So although you may not be receiving the pension, you also are not getting that deduction removed either.
Right. So in regards to conferences, are we speaking to in this, I think currently we can go to 3 conferences, is that correct? It used to be 2 and we increased it to 3. Are there limits there? And how does that get governed, or can you speak to that a little bit about how those are going to work?
Sure, through you from Deb.
Go ahead, sir.
Chair Turton. We have made no changes, so you will still receive a premium for or a per diem for going to conferences. We have not made any changes to that whatsoever. We understand that is a different animal altogether if you have to take a full day off of work to go to a conference or some type of educational program. We understand that shouldn't be included in this particular compensation review.
And I understand from the reading there too, that if we're attending a conference and there is a meal provided, then you don't get to put in for a meal allowance, which I'm entirely in favor of. But was I reading that correctly?
We would follow the same rules as we have in the policy.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Now,
seems fair to me.
I will say there are some exceptions, dietary issues that people may have that may not be able to eat that particular meal, and then we would make that adjustment.
Right.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Gunson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Turton. Back to Councillor Dirkson's comment, and I agree with her. Because I sit on a couple of committees, and I'm sure Councillor Dirkson sits on more. If next year the new council, you have a council that sits on 2 or 3 more committees, can we change that they get paid per diem on top of that, or can to compensate them for maybe sitting on more committees, or is this like this is a done deal when we sign that? Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Who's speaking?
I'll speak to this one.
Go ahead.
So typically, councilors are organized in very similar ways to what we've presented here today, except for the fact that in some cases where particular councilors sit on police services board or a hydro board or a hospital board, there is sometimes an extra stipend paid for those particular appointments. Now, my suggestion is that if council wants to look at that question, that they do it outside of this particular conversation. I think this is your base salary, base remuneration, base benefits. And then if council wants to have a conversation about, do we want to look at stipends for different committees and at what level, then that's a conversation you should have. Does that help, Councillor Gunson?
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor Bridge.
Yeah, and great comments and great concerns everybody's having. And I'll tell you from my seat and where I sit, this has been a very hard thing. And I understand where everybody's coming from. And by the way, OMERS, I believe, and you can check this, Gord, but I just was kicked off OMERS. Now I'm an OMERS for the county, and you can't be on OMERS. I paid into OMERS till I was 71. So,
Yeah.
and as soon as you're 71, you're kicked off. So now I can't, it's your best 5 years of accumulation or whatever, and that's how they do your pension. So you don't have to, you don't have to take it at 65. If you're 65 and up to 71, you can still be in OMERS. And that's just the way it is. But I just throw that out there because I've just went through that. So anyways, as far as it going into, and I understand the concern, and there's some people can do on more committees, but you have to understand the way this council has been, and we don't know what the future councils will want to do, but your committee of the whole, like your bigger ones, you do it together anyways. So you have some smaller ones, but as a mayor, it was always difficult for me to balance that as best I could. Some people had more time on their hands, so they were able to do more. Other councillors, because they're got a full-time job and they're doing other things, didn't have the time. So what I really want to do, and Derek sort of brought this up when we were discussing this and trying to figure this out, and we're one of the last ones. If you look at the report, I think there's one other one, Mapleton, that has per diems. The rest of the world has gone this way. And, you know, there's going to be, sometimes somebody's going to say, well, you know, somebody isn't pulling their weight. But if they're doing their proper job and reading everything, reading the committee reports, making decisions at council, and doing everything they can to be up to speed on all the decisions they're trying to make, whether that particular committee meeting or not, I don't think it matters. I mean, it might help out, but at the end of the day, I think we can take that off the plate. I think we've got some pretty good people. Like if you look at this group here, other than most people have pretty balanced. Some people have maybe one committee more or whatever, but we try to balance it up as best we could. So I don't think we have to worry about that. I think that'll be good. I think if you can get a good council, and you can also, in the future, allowing more opportunities for different people that might be able to come to council. I really like the fact that Derek brought into we were talking about the hybrid thing that we talked about, and getting the opportunity for more people to be involved. And I just hope that this would attract a real good bunch of people who want to run for council. I'm a little concerned, to be honest with you, after this last 2 or 3 years we've gone through, and how people have taken upon. I know everybody in this room has been yelled at, screamed at, probably more than normal, because of what we had with the COVID and whatnot. It's tough, and I think it's a fair report, and I really like the fact that we kind of looked at it. We're not the best, and we're not the worst, and you know, at the end of the day, the next council will have a good repayment for their work. And I really think maybe having the benefits and the health benefit, I know, Ron, you're talking about it. I understand what you're saying, but it's an add-on. Like, so if I've got 2 benefit packages, right? Myself, I still have the TD one, and I have the county one. So sometimes I'll get an extra $50 for the glasses off the other one. So that's how it works. It's a kind of an account that works that way. So I think it just opens up the opportunity for, hopefully, to attract some young people, and not that we're not young, some of us are a little older than others, but at the end of the day, I'm hoping that this gives us a good firm basis for the next election when people see this happening. And by the way, I think you mentioned it, Gord, but I believe it's mandatory for us to do this once a term for the next term, is it not? Like, we have to review compensation for the next council.
Certainly, yes. And this is a good time to do it. And
yeah,
and I want to emphasize what CEO Thompson already said too, is that this is for the base things. You can still tweak, add on, and do other things, but this is the basic salary, if you like, and then there can be other enhancements or that way too. And as Mayor Bridge has many decades of experience on pensions, so he knows that too. The neat thing too is OMERS has an excellent website. So if you do go ahead, you can kind of look how it tailors to your own particular situation too.
Anyways.
Councillor McKenzie, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair Dave. So Gord, if Extended Health is the same company as you're proposing that we have, what happens then? Why would we double pay, or the person on council?
Again, the same, like Manulife is huge. It's only about three companies in Canada that really do the public sector. And as other ones have indicated, just because you have the same carrier, you may not have the same plan, like the same limits and the same coverages. So hard to say for sure, but it's quite possible.
Other questions? I know that councillor remuneration is always a hot topic. I remember back when I mean, it's education too for our new councillors. I really think it's important that if somebody comes off the floor, and we're really hoping that there's all kinds of people that run for council in 2022, but I'm hoping that they step forward and they phone Derek Thompson or Gord Duff or Mayor Bridge and ask, what is expected of me as a councillor? And I mean, I really don't think that there's a book on being a councillor or being a good councillor. So I encourage, I mean, I did that a number of years ago. It was Barb Wilson that I spent quite a bit of time discussing, you know, what is the expectation of a councillor? What's expected of you? And I mean, that was one of the things that she hammered about, is attending meetings, coming to the meetings prepared, read your council package. So, and I mean, it is what it is. So if there's no other questions, we've read the recommendation. Is there anyone opposed? Raise your hands. Thank you very much. That's carried unanimously. Second item today is the temporary borrowing for 2022. Treasurer Duff, would you please take us through that?
Okay, thanks, Chair Turton. This is one of the housekeeping ones that we do every year. Certainly it's a requirement of our banker, and it's good practice to do too. So this gives us authority to borrow for operating purposes if we need be. Again, it's something that we certainly don't want to do, but it gives us authority should the need arise. And we've had 2 years of unpredictability. We hope we don't have any need for it, but it's a good thing to have in our back pocket for sure. And there's a related bylaw for that too.
All right, so we have recommendation moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Mayor Bridge. The Council of the Town of Minto receives the report FIN 2022-002, being a report on the 2020 temporary borrowing, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto considers passage of the related bylaw in open session. Questions for our treasurer? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? No one opposed, so that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Third item is the interim tax levy. Gord, you're doing a great job. You want to keep going?
Sure, we're on a roll. Okay, so again, this is one that gives us authority to send out the interim tax bills. Again, they're based on 50% of the previous year. We've been able, not any huge changes in tax legislation for the past few years, so we've kept our due dates virtually the same. The interim for this year will be March 28th and May 27th. And I believe the final are going to be September 28th and November 28th. So it's a way to smooth out our tax cash flow, and also for our residents, although we do offer the monthly payment option, it keeps their expenses predictable as well. So this gives us the authority to do that.
Thank you, Treasurer Duff. So the recommendation is moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Elliott. The Council of the Town of Minto receives the report FIN 2022-003, being a report on the 2022 interim tax levy bylaw, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto considers passage of the related bylaw in open session. Questions for our treasurer? Anyone opposed to this? No one opposed. It's carried. Thank you very much. And I'll pass. Thank you very much, Treasurer Duff. Pass the chair back to our mayor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Turton. And okay, I have other business. Anybody thought of anything for the time Let's roll around. Jean, go ahead. I still have you on mute, Jean. There you
Sorry, I was having trouble getting my mouse to work here.
Okay.
Just report on our Christmas dinner. It went very well despite the COVID restrictions, and I truly appreciate the assistance provided by the staff at the arena. They were great. I felt bad keeping them there on Christmas Day while we were trying to clean up. I think we sent out about 250 dinners. A couple little glitches in it, but nothing major, and seemed to be very well appreciated. We got lots of notes of thanks back from people that enjoyed a dinner. So just a good thing to happen. I think the town seems to really appreciate it, and we certainly appreciate all the support we get from various town members and groups that donate money or donate food or come out and help. And we had some kids there this year, teenagers. They stayed on the outside with their family. It was nice to see a family out there, so they get sort of a sense of Christmas isn't all about opening presents. So I think we accomplished our goals again this year. And we've already received encouragement for next year's dinner, hoping that it will be a sit-down dinner, not a takeout dinner if we can get through this COVID stuff. And just on the COVID front, I know that everybody's hearing about it, but our hospitals are struggling, like really struggling. The staffing is becoming pretty scary. They're asking for volunteers to come out of not frontline jobs to give us a hand on the floors because we're so overwhelmed. OC Health can't get back to you quick enough. We get nurses who get stuck with contact tracing and then they're sitting at home because OC Health just simply can't keep up to let them know that they could come back to work. So people are working overtime to cover those shifts. And I have some real concerns about another week or so of this and what it's going to do to our healthcare systems, just our ability to cope. It's getting pretty. So my message is stay home, people. This thing is very, very contagious. Just stay home. That's what we need to do. And I know they're trying to open things back up again. I'm really nervous about what that's going to do. The schools, it's going to spread. The kids aren't all vaccinated. Their younger siblings aren't vaccinated. They're going to spread. And then everybody in that class has to go into isolation for a week. So it takes all those people out of the working force. Anyway, just if you can, my advice is to stay home and wash your hands lots and lots and lots and wear your masks and get vaccinated.
Thanks, Jean. And thanks for doing the supper again, or the supper again was, I'm sure, well appreciated. And you had to pivot. It was a tough pivot, but you did it.
Yeah.
And it sort of took my words away here, but that's good because you're right in the healthcare system and you understand it. And I was going to say much the same as what you just said. We really have to hunker down for the next few weeks, for sure, because it's and you see it. If you listen to the news at all, it's the fact that we're losing people at work areas like paramedics and everybody else. We're in this bad situation. I get my Monday meetings with the county, with the mayors and Dr. Mercer, and that's the suggestion is let's try our best to stay away from each other somewhat. And because if we do get it, and we can't trace anymore, so it's really tough. And the testing. So what those numbers you see, even though they looked a little down today, we went from 20 to 60 overnight just by having a couple parties over New Year's. A lot of just kids getting together and other people getting together. It happens so fast, and this is a variant is very, and I hate to say it. Everybody thinks, oh, it's mild, you're not going to get sick. That doesn't matter. You're going to be in the hospital. There's enough numbers that make the hospital almost untenable. And if you look at our numbers in the hospitals, that's what we're in a situation. So, and our long-term care, cross our fingers, we don't lose too many people. We did lose some young people. I heard today 64 young people are in intensive care now in Ontario that are under 5. So it's, you're protecting all those people by not going out as well. So I just have to say to everybody, if anybody's listening, if you can hunker down for the next 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully the crest will hit and we can get back to somewhat normal. So I know it's frustrating, But at the end of the day, we have to really do that. And thanks for bringing the personal side of it, Jean, because you work in the system and you see it firsthand. So thank you for that. And that's all I have.
It's pretty scary right now.
Yeah, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And we just have to keep our ourselves as separate as possible. Anyway. Okay, moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, that the Committee of Whole convenes the regular council. Anybody opposed? Don't see anything. That's good. A notice of motion. Anybody on notice of motion? Don't see anything there. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Dirksen, the Council of Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the Committee of the Whole. Anybody opposed? Seeing none. Bylaws. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Gunson, that bylaw number 2022-01 for the purpose of appointing municipal council members and citizens of the Town of Minto be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council and sealed with seal of corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Dirksen and second by Councillor McKenzie, the bylaw number 2022-02 to authorize a temporary borrowing of funds for the year 2022 be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council and sealed with seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Anderson, the bylaw number 2022-03 being a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw number 0186 for the Town of Minto be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council sealed with seal of corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Councillor Dirksen, the bylaw number 2022-04 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 0186 for the Town of Minto be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council and sealed with seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Elliott, bylaw number 2022-05 to provide the interim tax levy on all assessments within the specific tax classes and to provide a penalty and interest rate for taxes in default be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council and seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, that bylaw number 2022-06 to authorize execution of a site plan agreement for the McClellan Industry Limited for the purposes for proposed development in the 340 Minto Road be approved and read first, second, and third time and passed open council seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Gunson, the bylaw number 2022-07 to confirm the action of the Council of the Corporation of Town of Minto respecting a meeting held January the 11th, 2022 be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council and sealed with the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. And just before I do this last one, just remember everybody, next week we have council again. So we're just so you, anyways, moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor McKenzie, the Council of Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. Thanks, everybody. Good discussion. Yes, Deputy Mayor Turton, are you just waving goodbye?
Annalene, is there anything that needs to be signed?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Turton. No, not by members of council for this term, this time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.